So we last week started looking at some of the Tehillim that we've been saying, trying to understand. A few people asked as well. We can understand a little bit more why we're saying what we're saying, how these Tehillim work. So last week we looked at Tehillim Kuf Kaf Aleph a little bit. We noticed how within the Mizmor there are two speakers, which is very unusual. The first person speaking, calling out of distress. Second person giving maybe some sort of encouragement, some sort of chizuk. And the Mizmor goes from a place of distress, maybe of hopelessness, towards a bit of comfort, a bit of belief, maybe going from the idea of believing in Hashem as something maybe theoretical, going into a deeply personal concept as well. Today, this week, I thought we'll start looking at the other Mizmor, which we've been saying very, very often, Shir HaMa'alot Mimam Hakim, Tehillim Kuf Lamed. I'm sure we can all say it off by heart by now. We've been saying it so often, so we know the words. And again, there are a number of similarities between this Mizmor and the previous one. Both of them, not by coincidence, are chosen as Mizmorim, which are said in times of distress, in times of trouble, times like this. Both of them begin with almost hopelessness, almost despair, but there is a sense of trouble. There's a sense of something is wrong. Again, it's not clear, it's not specific what it is necessarily, but it's deeply personal. The person saying the Mizmor is deeply affected by this. Right? Shir HaMa'alot Mimam Hakim Kraticha Hashem. From out of the depths, I call out to you, Hashem. This pasuk has a number of halachic ramifications as well. It's brought down when the chazan should not stand when one begins to pray. One should not stand on a higher level, stand lower, because it says Shir HaMa'alot Mimam Hakim. There are some shuls where they have it, where the chazan goes down in order to daven. But the idea here, Mimam Hakim, again, is a somewhat unique phrase in Tanakh. It only appears in 3 other places. Tanakh, another place in Tehillim, a few places in Navi as well. And there the context is Mimam Hakim Yam, from the depths of the sea, from the depths of the ocean. So it may be literal, it may be metaphorical. Yeah, it's probably metaphorical, but why specifically Mimam Hakim Yam? Why is that chosen as the place? That is the ultimate depths, down at the bottom of the sea. Complete hopelessness. There is nothing that a person can do. There's nowhere I can go. There's no way that I can get out. I am completely surrounded, engulfed on all sides. We can understand this is a very much an expression of distress. So, Kraticha Hashem, I call out to you, call out to Hashem. Adonai Shema b'koli tiyena uznecha kashuvot lekol tachanunai. So something interesting here. There's this expression of prayer, of calling out. Hashem, hear my voice. Your ears should listen to the call of my prayer. Again, there's a lot of repetition in this Mizmor. Almost every pasuk we find the same. The word is said once, it's said again. There's a lot of repetition that might come to deepen the distress, to deepen the dramatic effect. And what's interesting as well is that it says Shema b'koli, listen to my voice. It doesn't say listen to my tefillah. Says, listen to my voice. Koli, kol tachnunai. There's an emphasis here many times when we talk about kol versus tefillah. Less important necessarily the words that we're saying, but the voice that is being expressed, the fact that it's crying out. It may be, again, it may come from a place of a person is surrounded, a person's in the depths of the ocean. I don't know, I'm not able to articulate any words. I'm not able to say, I don't have time. I'm in such a place of distress where I'm unable even to think of what it is, what the words would be, but I'm just calling out. I'm just calling out in distress, calling out in prayer, and ask Hashem to call out my voice. Now, one of the difficulties whenever we get to these Tehillim, when studying is Tehillim, as we mentioned before, it's written as poetry, it's written as song. Sometimes we don't necessarily have the notes of how these songs should be read. Sometimes it's more relatively obvious in terms of how to break it up and where the verses begin, where they end. Sometimes it's more difficult, and there's obviously more than one way to interpret and to understand. I think this Mizmor, broadly speaking, can be divided into two halves, and each of those halves can be divided into two as well. And what we notice is that there is a switch over here, not like the previous Mizmor we studied, where it's two people speaking. There's only one person speaking, and that's what normally happens. But you'll notice a switch about halfway through. So again, the person is talking directly to Hashem, addressing in the first person. Right? And then it switches. Kiviti Hashem, kivta nafshi v'lev ro'ochalti. Nafshi LaHashem mishomrim laboker, shomrim laboker. Achel Yisrael Hashem. The first half of the Mizmor, I'm talking directly to Hashem. The second half of the Mizmor, I'm still addressing Hashem, but it's now in the third person. Now it's something, maybe there's a certain distance, maybe there's a certain longing that comes out. So it might be the first half, I guess, is the call that comes out. It's going from milamata lemala. It's from the person, from the depths of the heart, from the depths of distress. I'm calling out. I am calling out to you, Hashem. Hashem, please help me. What can you do? Can you save me? The second half is maybe focusing on able to remove myself a little bit from the situation and talking about the call that is the expectation, the longing, the hope that is coming, milamala lemata, that is coming from Hashem down. I'm explaining kiviti Hashem kivta nafshi livro hochalti. I'm hoping, my hope is in Hashem. I'm hoping that Hashem, in His eternal goodness, His kindness, His mercy, can come along and can bring me that comfort and save me from that distress that it is. And that seems to be, again, in both halves, as the Mizmor goes on, it begins very, very hopeless, but it gets a little bit more optimistic as we go along. If you notice the pattern, there seems to be a bit more comfort each time. So just to give one example, if we say that the two halves are really parallel to one another, I think, again, it begins with a call. It begins with a call of distress, a call of help. And then there is a certain, again, some sort of comfort, something where it comes from. So the first half is, I call out, hear my voice, hear my cry. And then it's, that is, again, taking a step back. Hashem, if you are going to, the word tishmor, which we generally translate as to guard, but to look at, to keep, to protect, you preserve sins, who can stand in front of you? You are full of mercy, you're full of forgiveness. So that is that sort of comfort. And then again in the second half, that is that longing, that calling, that expectation of and the answer which comes back, that yes, Hashem is going to answer. He is full of chesed, He is full of pdut, He is full of mercy. So just look at those two psukim. In the first half, where the comfort comes from, kimcha haslicha. With you, Hashem is slicha, is forgiveness. Forgiveness has a certain, there's a connotation here of sin. There's a connotation of, okay, you'll forgive, but slicha is one thing. In the second half, it's not just slicha, rather it is kim Hashem ha-chesed v'abeinu fudut. Chesed, which is kindness. Fudut is really, really salvation. So as it goes on, there does seem to be that element that it's that there's more hopeful, more optimistic, more. I'm finding some sort of relief in what Hashem can provide. One more point as well, where this relief comes from, and the idea is that in both halves, the call, when it comes out, the call of distress, again, is deeply personal. It's mine, it's me, it's Hashem. I am calling out to you. Kiviti Hashem kivta nafshi. It's me, it's individual, it's my suffering. And then it becomes something more general. Something more general, the answer, whether it's in the first half, talking about how Hashem is towards all man, right? Hashem, mi yamod, who can stand up for you? Kimcha slicha leman tivarei. You have got this quality of forgiveness. In the second half, maybe it's relating to all of Am Yisrael. Again, it says Kim Hashem achez v'yamuvto hu yifdeh et Yisrael mikol avonto yachel Yisrael el Hashem. So it's these two ideas, maybe the individual versus the national versus the global, that there is this uncertainty for me as an individual. But if I look at the broader picture, then I know that there is that protection, that salvation that will come from Hashem. Okay. חנניה בן הקשה אומר, הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות ישראל לפרח בעליהם תורה ומצוות, שנעמד עליהם חפץ מעצים כה, יגדל